My name is Sovra, and I am live with NeVE.
Hi everybody, here we are live with NeVE. I have the lovely and talented Sovra from over the pond, and she's going to be talking about her great voice, her great piano prowess, and just all-around coolness. So, Sovra, how are you today?
I'm really well, thank you. Really
great.
Good.
How is the weather over the pond today?
It's quite nice.
All right.
Yeah, it's nice. You can feel winter's coming in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can feel
crisp.
that chill in the air. It's just started, so. But I will miss the summer. I'll miss the heat.
Sure.
It was good.
Well, that's cool. It's kind of more like your kind of a day here. It's just very gray and overcast.
Is it?
But,
okay.
That's okay. It happens. We're noticing, probably not to the same extent as you are, the little hint of the fall coming. And it's a little early
Whereabouts
this year.
exactly are you?
I'm right outside New York City.
Okay, I thought you were.
I'm just like, you can see the building right over there, the big one.
Right.
And the ocean's over here. But I can't even see New York right now. It's all cloudy, and the water, I can only see about a half mile offshore, but I don't care. It's a beautiful day anyway. I'm here. It's Friday, well fed, talking to you. So let's talk some music. When did you get started, and what pushed you into it?
Okay. Well, I was born into a family of musicians. So my dad and my mum were both musicians. My dad was a concert pianist, and my mum was a cellist. And and even her father, he was a musician as well, and a professor of medieval and Renaissance literature at Cambridge. So he was really into language and music. So my whole background was musical anyway. And so I got into, to cut a longer story short, I got into violin. And by the time I was 14, I kind of really focused in on it and got to a point where I was playing in a lot of orchestras and was in the National Youth Orchestra of Great Britain, which I kind of did till I was around 17, which meant all my school holidays were gone. So they worked you really hard in this orchestra.
Sure.
And I don't regret any of that, though, because I learned a lot about discipline and the classical discipline, even though I didn't really feel like I fitted somehow, and I didn't know why. And so I kind of went through a bit of a crisis when I was about 16 or 17, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, because it wasn't that I hated classical music, it's just that I liked Steely Dan, as you say.
Sure.
And those kind of Pat Metheny, I used to listen over and over to Pat Metheny's Travels, that live album, and I learned all the solos on violin, and John Scofield's solos and stuff. And I just thought, I want to play that type of music.
Right.
And I also dreamed of being a singer. So I used to listen to Ricky Lee Jones and think, if I could do a deal with God, then God would give me Ricky Lee Jones's voice, and then I could sing whatever I wanted. It would be amazing. But of course, I can't do a deal with God because it won't work. It doesn't work like that. And I could never sing like that. And so I didn't even bother learning to sing or even considering being a singer. I would just daydream that. And then I think I didn't really understand at the time that whatever you want to do, that the voice is just an instrument and it's a muscle and you have to train it and all this stuff. I think I was under the illusion that you were just born with a great voice, and it was different from the other instruments somehow in that way.
Sure.
And then I took up drum kit. I thought, well, I'm going to do the most outrageous thing I can think of so I can break free of these kind of classical girl in a pretty dress kind of shackles, because I felt shackled by this expectation that I would be, because my parents were really into early music.
Okay.
And my mum's granddad, I mean, he translated, he got an OBE for translating King Henry VIII's songbooks into English.
That
he
is
was
the
so
Order
into.
of Britain. Tell us.
Was it a CBE? I can't even remember if it was a CBE or an OBE. I just know that we went to the throne room and the Queen gave it to him and all this.
Wow.
Because he took over from C.S. Lewis in terms of in Cambridge when C.S. Lewis hired. He took over that post that he had.
Wow.
So he was so into, it was like, and my mum was into that area of early classical music, and so was my dad. And that's how they got together. It was that it's still the case now. There's a passion. Some people have such a passion for that time, and they kind of thought maybe that I would be as passionate as them about that. But to me, I wasn't. So that's why that combined with other things made me just want to break out and do something totally different. So I ended up learning drum kit, moving to London, and studying drums quite hard for a number of years. I wanted to be able to play funk. I used to listen to Bernard Purdie, and I wanted to learn the Bernard Purdie shuffle. I listened to Dennis Chambers and all these really good drummers, and I just thought, I really want to learn this. So I just did it as much as I could. And then by the time I was around 26, that's when I started actually getting professional work on drums, and moved from just jamming with as many people as I could to playing for signed bands. So then I toured with a guy called Lewis Taylor quite a lot, who was signed to Island Records at the time, who was an amazing kind of R&B artist.
Okay.
And I also played for a band called Mandalay, and I was a founding member of a band called Touch and Go, who had a hit called Would You, that got to like number 2 or so in the charts in the 90s as well. And
very nice.
Through that, I ended up saving money and starting to invest in recording equipment and learning how to sing and write songs and getting into music production.
Great.
Yeah. And so that started my course on more being into music production. And then I left the drums behind. The lifestyle of it wasn't right for me. It wasn't just the lifestyle wasn't right. So I left that behind and went into just wanting to be a singer-songwriter and learning to try. But at the same time, I didn't feel happy about my singing. And then later on in my life, I kind of learned more singing.
Take any lessons, or was it all just talking to family and friends and learning from various people or listening?
For singing, I did it much later. So I did songwriting before I learned to sing, and I would just sing along, and I sounded like Aled Jones on helium, just kind of like everything was like so gentle and like a little baby, so it was like, and everything was really high as well. I had no problem singing high, but singing low, my chest voice was almost non-existent. I was just like a little fairy. and totally unhappy with my voice. And then because of the internet and the information age that we're in now, that I think that's partly why I got better at singing over time. It wasn't until I was literally 33 years old or so, or not even 35, that I decided that I really wanted to bite the bullet and actually learn to sing better. Yeah. So that was an ongoing journey from there. That was another long journey.
I give you great credit for, it takes time to learn any of those instruments. I'm a very proficient drummer and singer, and I play enough guitar, keyboards, and things that go bump in the night to get by. But I hire a guitar player if I need a guitar player. I write songs as well, but my chops are just not. But I can sit down at a drum kit and, one take, two takes on any session call, I could probably knock it out most of the time. You know, sometimes the mojo is just not right in the air for whatever reason. But in general, I go in, and if you know your material, it's so much fun. You know, even if especially if it's somebody you don't really know and it's kind of a new encounter, and when you go in there and you just feel that groove come alive, and just makes for a wonderful track.
Yeah.
So I looked at a little bit of your Facebook page. You work and do production and songwriting.
I'm on a live. You need to go. Sorry, carry on.
Oh, that's okay. How old is your son?
That's my 18-year-old son. I've also got a 16-year-old son.
Well, that's great. Do they have any musical inclination?
Yes. They have very different tastes in music. It's quite fascinating, actually. My 16, well, he's 15, actually. I think of him as 16, but he's not quite 16 yet. He's 15, so, but he'll be 16 in November. But he's very into music, so he practices piano on his own.
Great.
He doesn't even need motivating, because I deliberately kind of did it differently from him, just from how it was for me, in a way, in that I didn't push him in any way. I don't regret being a little bit pushed when I was younger, because maybe I wouldn't, I don't regret it.
Of course.
I've gained so much. I mean, I can play violin, you know what I mean? And that's another story, like what happened to me on violin later. But I want him to have just joy and learn, and it be his. It's his, no one else's. And as soon as you start asking a child or telling a child to practice, it becomes yours and not theirs anymore.
That's true. I think a lot of people back out of it because of too much pressure if they're not inclined to it. I know I grew up and wasn't formally trained until later in life, and just had a feel for it. I was 7 or 8, and I started playing on my neighbor's kits and taken some very early drum lessons, but nothing like, you know, now I don't even think about it. It's just part of my DNA. You know, sit down at the kit and, you know, you can just knock it out. But I find it great that you took all these paths, because everybody's different in how they approach things.
Well, you can never know. You never know what you want until you've tried it.
Exactly.
I always used to really admire people who could they just seemed to have this way of just knowing what they wanted without having to experiment.
Right.
You know, I used to feel that there were a lot of classical players. I had a lot of insecurity about it. You know, even when I was young in the National Youth Orchestra, I felt like some of the kids there, they knew that's what they wanted, and they seemed to go on this like straight path. And I'm sure that in reality, their lives weren't straight at all. It just looked like it, and I felt like my life was so chaotic and going here and then there and back again and all over the place. But again, no regrets, because I've ended up a lot of different instruments as a result. And then and now I can incorporate it into my music and my productions when I get the time to do it. I also have to earn money as a musician at the same time, you know.
Of course.
And take care of children. My two, even though they're older now, so it's getting easier now than it was. But anyway, back to my 15-year-old son. He just enjoys. He does several hours practice a day. He's amazing at piano, and he's pretty much learned it on the internet by just copying things and breaking down, because all of that information now is there if you want it. Whereas when we were growing up, it wasn't. No. You'd have to go to a drum store to get the video of Dave Weckl and, you know, doing all that stuff. And you'd have to invest like quite a lot of money in that video. It's amazing now. It's amazing. So,
isn't it? Yeah. You can study anybody. It's a great age to be alive as a musician. And I still think, in spite of a lot of people say, oh no, that music's so much better now or back then, or, you know, anywhere in between, wherever people approach that perspective. A lot of old guys have sat around thinking the world would end when we are old and sitting around on the couch and we see some new music that shocks us or shudders somebody's sensibilities, if you will. And I have a feeling the kids are going to be okay because things are on a wheel, and I believe musically in particular, and in all things, history repeats itself. There's different times and periods and different types of music that people find fun.
It's all out there, so people
Yes,
find their own identities through
right.
the music that they're listening to. And I feel like with a lot of the there's a certain genre that my 18-year-old son, he will be listening to a lot of that stuff. So I hear a lot of him listen, that the lyrics are just absolutely terrible. You know, the
Right,
stuff that's on there, on the specific artist that he's listening to, it's
right.
like to do with gangs and all this kind of stuff. But
Sure.
I can kind of see why he feels that gives him a
Young
sense of identity
rebellious kids kind of feel like
where
they have
he
no
is.
place to
Yeah.
channel that, and that helps them, I think.
In that genre, there's some amazingly good, beautiful rapping, you
Oh,
know,
absolutely. The
and
rhythmic aspects
hooks
of the
and all sorts
vocals.
of stuff going on. Yeah.
So tell me now, do you perform out much anymore? Because I know family life, it's really hard to be in a full-time band or any of that thing and keep a family functional. But how does that work in your life? I know you do a lot of production and so forth. So how does that interact?
Yeah. I've gradually moved away from doing stuff outside of the house to everything being remote recording
Sure.
and remote. So it was a lot of file exchanging. And
Right.
in the last 10 years or so, I went back into, in terms of earning money, it was this weird dichotomy. Is that the word? I don't know. The two extreme things at the same time. So on the one hand, I would be busking in London on the licensed busking scheme, and which is really good for keeping me warmed up, getting my soloing better on violin, and my singing better as well. And at the same time, I was also doing sessions when they came in. So I'd go from busking on the street to then walking into a session where I'd be playing like the lead violin line on a BBC theme tune, like BBC Grand Designs, or things that people have heard of and would be, and yet at the same time I would be having to in order to keep myself going, I would be mixing that with busking, you know. And
You're not I think it's always a struggle. Musicians have traditionally, the old days you had patronage, you might have a king or the duke or somebody keep you working in the older days, previous generations. And then now there's things like Patreon and all that. So it's kind of busking's gone worldwide. But there's nothing like in the New York City or in London or any big city, watching the local talent, because there's some amazing things I've seen down in, Grand Central Station or Penn Station, any of those.
Well, a few years ago, I moved out of London. So I had the option of still going in sometimes to busk, but it's kind of, I haven't needed to so much because online took over.
Very good.
But now, because of the virus and all of this stuff, it's still happening, but it's a little more quiet. But I've done some library music for an app called Filmstro as a core writer. So that's kind of helped because that evens stuff out a little bit. Doesn't earn loads, but it's just trickles here and there. You also get trickles from PRS.
Sure.
For, a song that you might have written with someone, or, I get trickles from here, trickles from PPL.
Right.
And that's kind of useful little unexpected things coming in here and there. And, you just kind of, but it is hard. And ideally, I really, really want to earn my money from performing live and from writing my own music and being a recording artist. That's always what I wanted to do for like literally the last 20 years, really. Since I was touring with these bands, kind of, I knew that that's what I wanted.
Right.
But the practicality of that it got to a point when I was in my early 30s when I decided to literally quit music altogether. I just could not see how it was going to work. This was at the time when all the bands that I was with, they were just being
kicked off.
Yeah, it was just all it was just the whole structure of the music industry as it was then was just collapsing. And it wasn't even, I mean, that they were dropped, or it's just that the structure that they were doing it on wasn't working anymore. And it was all moving. So I just kind of, it was around that time I just thought, there's no chance I'm ever going to get signed. And I had a meeting with the guy, I think it was David Steele, about, and I spoke to him and I played him some of my stuff and I produced it myself and he listened, and there's only so much, you know, I could, at the time as well, with all the, you needed more at the time than just kind of fiddling around it on your own. You're like, I was anyway, definitely. I needed help with the production and everything.
Sure.
And but he said, now you have to have everything packaged. You have to have your recordings done. It has to be complete package. Otherwise, what, you know? And I was like, this impossible, this chicken and egg. And at the time, and then you didn't have the access to the social media on the internet, but now you do. And now the whole thing's been turned on its head. It's completely different. And I'm like, well, I really want to try to make use of this. Now I'm coming out of this point of like just being on the hamster wheel, looking after children, earning, looking after children. Now I want to actually focus back in on trying to earn from that. But honestly, how to do it, I'm still trying to figure it out, because it is, of course, it's complicated.
It's a time of change, and the map hasn't, or the book hasn't been written yet. We're kind of in uncharted, uncertain times in many places. And
it's moving so fast.
Well, I'll tell you what, how about, would you like to play something?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. Songs are like rivers, they come and go, they ebb and flow with the hours. If I could pick one at 2:30, I'd miss the other 3 flowers. Songs are like water, they slip through my hands, like all of my best laid yet unattained plans, like growing a flower, giving it wings, 'cause song's a beautiful thing. Give me courage to move my hands. Give me courage to move my hands through the water. Words are the hardest, I have no doubt. Words are the hardest way to let it out. Actions may speak, but are sometimes confusing and a lie. Baby, oh baby, don't leave me. You know what makes the right song for me and you. Does it really matter if it's nothing new? Nothing new. Give me courage to move my hand. Give me courage to move my hands through the water.
How about that, everybody? The lovely and talented Sovra.
Thank you.
You are just wonderful. I really enjoyed that. So tell me, do you have anything that you do just solo on violin that you like to play?
Yeah, I have quite a lot of on my own songs.
Okay.
These were my own songs, but my songs that I'm obviously not playing piano on.
Right.
When I live stream, because I do live stream regularly on
Right.
my Facebook page,
Sure, I
which
watched this.
are basically facebook.com/Sovra Music. That's one word, Sovra Music. That basically I'll do the backing tracks of my songs, and then I'll be able to play the violin along.
I see.
And I do that here, but I don't think they'll come through so well on the stream because
Probably.
it's all in
Okay.
stereo. When I do the broadcasting, it's in stereo via
Right.
RTMP and all that kind of stuff. So it's
Of course.
harder. I don't know how it will come across, but I'll give you an idea anyway. This is one of them, kind of coming through in the distance.
It's Sovra.
These pretty pictures of him that I made in my head, I should have thrown them in, laid them on the seabed. You sun and salty air, come and share a wedding band of sand, a wedding band of sand. Go with the tide, he will be by my side. If I put my hand in the sea, then he will come back to me. He will come back to me. This hopeless hoping swing, I'm at the end of my road. Well, I'm gonna go see what life brings. I'm gonna catch you, hold you to me. Oh, well, I got my babe, and I can't wait. A wedding band of sand, a wedding band of sand. Come with the tide. If I put my hand in the sea, then you will come back to me. Come back to me.
All right. Very nice. I've heard you do that on your shows. I like your songs, and I think you're just great. You're fun and you're funny. And do you also play cello by any chance?
I do have an octave viola that goes to the same range as a cello, but I found actually that the best way I'll blend using a cello, really good cello sample in with real viola and violin, or maybe detune a viola a bit to get it. Yeah, it tends to work because, but the thing is, even if you have an octave viola, you won't get the resonant depth and kind of a large instrument that the cello is. So in a way, I like the Tina Guo cello samples. That virtual instrument, I got that, and I might use that and mix it in if somebody really needs some low lines from cello as well.
That's cool.
Or I'll detune. Yeah, it really depends. But I've got a website, which is quickfiddle.co.uk, which has like lots of audio clips of all of the stuff I'm on.
And what is that website again? It is
www.quickfiddle.co.uk.
There you have it. And I'm sure I really hope some of my friends here in the musical community will reach out to you and, send you some work, because I've got a lot of friends, and you never know. Now that I know you're here, it's like anything, once you find people you like to work out, nowadays especially, we could just sit here and like have a conversation, and, if you work with good people, you can just tell them what the project is, let them hear it, and give them a certain guideline, but then let them run with it, because I'm sure you'll come up with a much more interesting string part than I'll ever think of. And
quite often people want me to kind of make it up. I can solo over stuff, so people like that, because they kind of get used to working with me, because I also they don't have to provide me with parts, because I can hear it and just copy it.
Right.
I think it's the fact that have got the classical upbringing, but I'm coming from a completely different angle. And I know that there's a music production side of things that I can do, and just send the files and mix them if they need it. And also I do the vocals as well. So they've kind of they can have backing vocals at the same time, bunch it all in one, and save money,
Absolutely. So, I definitely will be talking to you myself, and, some of my friends. Once you find someone you can use, and they're reliable, and they're, affordable for everybody, makes a decent bit of money, and, what makes the world go around. And plus, it's always better than working with people you don't know, or are grumpy, or, I like working with people who just come in and the music's their life, and they love to sit down. I can see it when you talk about music. The light goes on in your eyes, and, you feel good about it. And I think that's what good music should do. It should make all of us feel good about each other, and take a break from all the nonsense that goes on. We get politics on 150 channels everywhere at all times, even on your phone sending you messages. I'm trying to get my show to the point where it's going to be not so many of these Zoom chats, but I want to have more of a live experience, sort of like the old Johnny Carson show or David Letterman, something for people who are a little older than the late night talk show hosts typically aim at, which is, the younger people, because they spend more money. Those of us in, I guess I'm a seasoned citizen, and I know that it's really aimed at a much younger demographic. So I'm kind of hoping to put together a show starting in January. It'll be called NeVE at Night, and it'll be more of a talk show host with guests, comics, but mainly aimed at people who grew up with the kind of music we did. I would say anybody from, probably from like anybody 40 on, I think, is our target demographic. Now, some of us grew up with kids who really like our music, so that can be shifted down another generation depending on your kids. My kids listen to all kinds of great music, and my daughter Asia turns me on to music all the time. And I think it's the universal language. A smile and an instrument and a lick well played, and you're part of the family all of a sudden. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I appreciate it. And
it was a pleasure.
And everybody watching, please go to her page, go to Sovra, friend, share, do whatever you have to. And most importantly, if you have a gig and you need a violin or an excellent vocalist, look her up. And you're at what?
Yeah. If you want remote sessions, it's quickfiddle.co.uk. But if you want to just check out my original music, then it's sovra.com, www.sovra.com, which is spelt Sovra. That's it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'll see you again. And I'm going to tell everybody, subscribe to her page, subscribe to my page, subscribe to every page in the known universe if you dig it. Thank you very much. I'm sure I'll be talking to you again. Mwah. Back at you.
Have a lovely day.
All right. Signing off now.